Hi, Ultimate Coach Facebook group. I'm here with Dave Orton today, who needs very little introduction, who's here to speak to us about why he's going to be in India and his experiences from being in London. Hi, Dave. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Angie. My pleasure to be here. So good to be with you.
Thank you. I'd love you to tell us why you were in London, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Why was I in London? So, Steve Hardison changed the direction of my life over 10 years ago when I watched TBOLIT NFL, and then when I went and had the opportunity to have a Be With session with him. And since that time, I after that, I was able to, in 2017, have the chocolate chip cookie agreement with him, 10 hours of coaching with him. I got to experience the creation of myself with Steve Hardison and learning to forgive myself for my own judgments. And it turned out that all the judgments that I had in the world against anybody and everybody and God and the way that things worked, all of those were judgments that I had against myself. So learning how to forgive myself and forgive everything by forgiving myself changed my world even more. Now, what does that have to do with London? Well, that's the precursor. We got to, we had the event in Phoenix that I attended virtually, and had no idea who most of the people were there. I knew some of them from being part of Steve's Facebook, in his Facebook sphere, if you will, and reading some of the books that some of the other people had written. And it wasn't until just a little bit after the Phoenix event that I started really to get into the Facebook group. And there was a moment where Eric Lofholm was put into Facebook jail. He was basically limited on what he could post for a while. And he'd been posting, who are you being? And I'm like, I need to help this guy out. I'm going to help him out. So I'm like, in his absence, I'm like, who are you being? And I started acknowledging people, and it became this thing that gave me life. And this thing I'm talking about is the Facebook group, the Ultimate Coach Facebook. This group is, like, for me, one of the most sacred, empowering, loving spaces I have ever encountered. Church isn't this good for me, and I love my church. But I went from being somebody who was observing to somebody who was on the court participating and attempting to, through conversation, make a difference with other people. And they announced, the London event, and Steve kept, like, putting me, like, what's that called? Tagging me in some of these things. And I'm like thinking about it. See, Penny and I both are of British extraction. And we both love, kind of funny, our favorite movie of all time is the 1995 BBC 6-hour-long or 5-hour-long version of Pride and Prejudice. And we've watched that so many times that it's ridiculous. Mostly have it memorized, which is odd. But we really wanted, 20 years ago when we started watching that, I made a promise to Penny that we would someday go to England and visit a beautiful country house and see some of the places where our families had come from. And that was a promise with no deadline, which meant it was never going to happen. So between that promise that started to come into focus all of a sudden with the possibility of going to London and being there with Steve and being with everybody that was there, being with you, Angie, and Steve, putting my name in tagging me in these different posts about being inspired to come to London, Penny and I had this flash of brilliance. I'm like, I need to be in London. Like, there was just this moment where light came into me. Infinite intelligence said, Dave, your path is through London, and you need to take Penny. So I went down and talked with Penny. I'm like, Penny, I'm not going to do this without you. I'm ready to commit to go to London. Now, we don't have money for that. We don't have, plans for that. Our kids are grown enough that they'd be fine. and their oldest sister, she's 24 years old. She's close, so she could monitor the two that are still at home. But I had no idea how we would do this, and I know that if we commit, it'll happen. And so I would like to invite you to consider the possibility of committing, but I'm not going to do it unless you're willing to commit with me. She's like, well, what about this? What about that? What about our credit cards? What about the, our debt? What about how are we going to, we don't have enough to do this right now. I know, we'd have to create it. And in 5 minutes or less, she came back to me and said, okay, I commit. I'm like, great. Would you please speak that to me? And she said, yes, I am committed to being in London with you on the date of the London experience. I said, thank you. Beautiful. And I said to her, I commit to being in London with you on the date of the London experience. And that day, we bought our tickets. And then from there, I reached out to see how I could be of assistance. I was, directed to the team managers that were helping to support the event itself. And I got busy from commitment, creating the ways and means to get there. Now, this was the miracle. See, if I got just that from London, I got the entire experience, because who I was being was shifted in that moment from not committed to committed, from being somebody who was watching to being someone who was in action, to being someone who was creating the miracles that were required and having the conversations that were not going to happen anyway, such that we could be there. So we could buy the tickets to the airline tickets, rent pay for the hotel, pay for food, pay for the adventures we wanted to have. And it just fell into place. In 2 weeks, we had the money and everything. It was all set. And my brother Matt Evans, he's like, Dave, you're coming to England, you got to come and stay with us for a little, or come and see us for a little bit. And you want to stay in a country house? This place, Coombe Abbey, it's the bee's knees. It's the best thing ever. It's not the words he used, but it was just this amazing, miraculous unfolding of an experience. And Penny had never been across the pond. I had never been to England. I'd been to Ireland a couple of times, in Europe in my previous business travels, but we had never been to London. And we'd grown up our entire lives watching movies and seeing these different parts of London and never having been there. So it seemed like this dream world that didn't really exist in the real world because we hadn't experienced it. But we did. And we showed up and we had miracle experience after miracle experience after miracle experience that was just more and more expansive and fulfillment of what we had given our word to experiencing. And I told you a little bit about this, Angie. I'm going to repeat for the audiences at home. I cracked myself up. We got to go. So Penny is an artist, and I have a degree in art, a minor in art appreciation, like the humanities, they call it. And so we had seen all these pictures in textbooks in college, and we went, and the first day we were able to go and see all of these amazing pieces of art. I'd never seen a work by Michelangelo in real life. I'd never seen a work by Da Vinci in real life. I'd never seen all the Dutch masters in real life, all the British masters in real life. And there they were. I had a book. We went to a place where I had a book as a child that had like pictures of different armaments and suits of armor and swords and things like that. We unintentionally went to that place and saw that. Like I didn't know that was the same place where these pictures had been taken. Oh. And I got to see them in real life. I was like, oh my word, I'd forgotten. And then as we're going, and that was it. Saw Big Ben, saw the Parliament, it was all of these amazing, miraculous things. And then we come back to the hotel. We're going to go out to dinner with the crew and prepare, and I run into Ankush Jain, who I had known about for years and run into. We're in the lift from the underground, and I turn and there's Kush, and I said, "Hey, Ankush, how's it going?" He turns to me and says, "Hey, Dave, how's it going?" The group brought together, and Angie, you said it so amazingly well previous to when we started recording. It's the same for me. I'd never read a book, and this is me quoting Angie to the best of my ability. I'd never read a book where the characters fell out of the book and into my life.
Yeah, it really is how it feels.
It's beautiful, Angie. But and that was my experience. And then we went and had dinner, and I was thinking we were going to get to work, and instead it was Amy and Steve were there. Penny had never met Amy or Steve. And we got to sit with Steve and with Rose Latham and with Asia, and we had this amazing experience of conversation, and Steve coached all of us, and we had this cross conversation, and he acknowledged each of us individually, and it was this miraculous experience. I kind of felt bad because, you know, it felt like Steve needed to go spread himself around with all the other people. He just focused on us because that was who he was with. And then the next day was the event. And I didn't get much sleep the night before. I was a little bit worried because I was buzzing from the best day since I'd married Penny in my entire life. And then the next day came, and the event was amazing. The event was an unfolding of the possibility of a vision that Matt had, and that the entire London team and Kush and Raghav and Matt and Fiona and everybody that helped, and me to a very small degree, but I was there and I helped, and I'm wearing my checkered hat that Steve had given me the night before, the pork pie hat, I guess they call it. and just making sure that I'm not blocking anybody behind me. And I got to sit by, amazing people. I just got to interact with all these people who had been characters in a Facebook group for me before, and get to know and love them in real life. And we got to learn from, Amy and Steve and Karen Rye, and it was just amazing and beautiful. And that right there would have been enough, right? But the next night, that night we got to go out to dinner, and with the Thursons. So Eric and Judy Thurston. So Judy Thurston and her son Jacob are why and how ultimate experiences happened in the first place. They were the source of Phoenix, which was the source of London, which was the source of some of the other virtual experiences we've had, which is the source of India, right? And Eric said, "Dave, I have this, I've been praying for you that you would in 6 months be a full-time coach." I was like, "Wait, what?" See, I am a coach. I've been coaching for a long time, and I have a full-time job. And he had this vision with me, and they had decided beforehand that they were going to come and find the Ortons and spend some time with us. I was like, "Thank you so much for doing that." And then there's Sarah Adnani sitting on the other side. She's like, "Dave, you're not a full-time coach? What's going on here?" and this vision was created that I am working towards, but it is just, that was not going to happen anyway. And then the next night, we had this opportunity to be with another group of just amazing person. Ellen Thompson was there. Who else? Gosh. And the names are escaping me right now. I'm so sorry, you beautiful people who were there with me. But just this amazing group of people. And I had the opportunity to acknowledge each of them and create this sacred experience in space. And that was me really, I was recognizing that through me, divine intelligence has the ability to speak masterfully, acknowledging people. So I am a master acknowledger. I'm a master of acknowledgement. And it's not me. It's, the way that I've heard it is that God speaks all the words. God breathes all the breaths. God dances all the steps. God creates all the books, or writes all the books and gives all the speeches. And I love that. And in that moment, I got to experience that, and others got to experience it in a way that I will never forget. So that's just the part that I'm going to share. Penny and I had adventures with Matt Evans and his family, and created relationships, and got to spend the night in a beautiful room that is older than the United States by only about 700 years, and just amazing, miraculous, beautiful. I got to ride the train through the spot where my great 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 grandfather had a farm before they immigrated to the United States. It was just, got to have this miraculous experience. So that was my London experience. Now, what does that have to do with India? I've been to India once before on a business trip in Chennai. I've never been to Mumbai. And I love and appreciate the Indian peoples. And it's not, when you say India, it's not, there's not just one people that are India. It is, there's over 100 languages that are spoken. And I'm aware of like the top, I don't know, 13 maybe. And I have read the Bhagavad Gita multiple times, and I've read the Upanishads, and I've watched different movies that talk about that show the history of some of the great moments in Indian history. And I have this love of India, and that's not why I'm going to India.
Why are you going to India, Dave?
Because divine light shined on me a couple of days before Christmas last year and said, Dave, the path to you being and becoming who you're here to be and become in this world, in this life, leads through Mumbai, through the India Ultimate Experience. Like, oh, okay. I'm like, and I'm like, Penny, do you want to go with me? Like, no, you go. It's all good. So, okay, great. So I'm going to India. So I bought and again, we're the same situation. Okay, we don't have money for this. We have our passports, thank goodness. And the Indian government has given an e-passport. They've published an e-passport thing that makes it so much easier to get a passport visa. Sorry, an e-visa thing that makes it a lot easier to get a tourist visa to India. And I had my shots not too long ago, like 10 years is how long the shots last for some of the things that are recommended or required for US travel or foreign travel into India. So all these bases are already covered. And so all there is to do is to create the money, right? Well, and I'm partway there. Like, I'm not all the way there. This is not all handled yet, Angie. And I know it will be, because commitment is who I am. Because, and God looked down and said, hey, send this message to Dave. Your path leads through there. Okay, wonderful. You and me, God, how are we going to make this happen? And there's who I am becoming. So the way that we got to England and to Chicago and some of the other places that Penny and I have been to participate in being experiences was partially in creation, selling coaching, and partially in borrowing. And I'm like, I'd like to not borrow this time. I'd like to just create. Can we do that? Is that okay? And little voice was like, hey, sure, let's do that. So who do you need to talk with? What are the conversations to be had? And I've got those conversations scheduled, and I've taken some training from some other amazing coaches, and onward and upward we go. So it is really about who I am becoming as I have committed to, and I'm taking the steps that show up as required for me to be in Mumbai on February 25th. And if I were to show up on the 25th and go to my hotel and just sit there, I would already be different, be more powerful, be someone who can make things happen by the power of my word and my commitment, than I have been before. So that would be enough. Now, I'm going to go have dinner with Steve and Amy and the presenters, and I'm going to talk with them, and I'm going to get to know like Becky Robbins, who I've never met her in person, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to, meet Alok in person. I've never had that opportunity, and I'm way looking forward to that. And Ron John, I'm going to meet you there again, Angie, and we'll have, okay, I don't know, are you a hugger? Let me know if you're a hugger. I'm a hugger. Yes. So I'm going to hug you until it's a little awkward and uncomfortable, and then it'll be okay. But just to be fair warning there. you can tap me on the shoulder if it's too much. Okay.
I've had Gabby hugs. Gabby hugs are that if you've never hugged Gabby, you need to go find Gabby and hug Gabby.
She's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Or is she? I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get to hug Gabby.
You get to.
I've never met Gabby in real life, so I am transformed right now from the India event. Like, it's not a future state thing. And what will show up from that? What a place to come from. I am coming from already transformed to an event that is about the transformation of what it means to be a human being. Mm. And there's another side to this too. The mercenary side of me is like, my network exploded when I went to England. I met people from all over the world. And it's going to happen again in India. Why would I not show up there? Just from the possibility of conversations and expanding the network and the possibility of masterminding with people and knowing people from all over the world, it's a no-brainer to be in India. And you listening, I invite you to consider the possibility that this would expand your wealth and well-being, in addition to transforming and empowering and uplifting and up-leveling who you are being in the world. So go get your ticket. What are you waiting for? If you're willing to commit, just say to yourself, I commit to being in India at the event on February 25th, and do what there is to do. Get your passport. Make sure that you've got your passport and that it doesn't expire in less than 6 months from February 25th. Get on the website and get your ticket purchased. Get on the e-visa site if you're coming from outside of India, and get your visa so that you can show up there and actually participate, as opposed to being turned away and sent back out of the country. The company I worked with before, that happened to some guy, like a VP. He showed up there without having gotten a visa, and they just put him back on a plane and shipped him right back out. Wow. Get your hotel arranged. And if you need to create money, start creating money. Start having conversations. And by doing that, who you are for yourself is changed. Who you are for yourself is bigger and greater than who you have been up to this point. Sorry, Angie, I've been talking a long time. What do you have for me here? What's showing up over there for you?
I just want to really add in that when I first started doing these videos, I kind of spoken into, I bought my tickets, but I don't know where I'm going to stay. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know where I'm going to find the money from. Now we have the money for economy flights. The hotel is paid for. The tickets are paid for. The e-visa is done. But we're holding out on that economy money for the flights because Matt said, I don't want to fly economy. Let's create the money for business. So that money still sat there waiting for those flights to be booked, because we're coming business class, not economy. We're waiting to find out how we're going to create that. And we're kind of putting ourselves into the world every day going, who do we need to be to create that? And that's going to happen. We're sure.
Beautiful.
And that for us, that's as much, like as you said, that's as part of the experience and who we become through that journey as being there on that day. So wonderful. I want to say thank you, and I want to acknowledge you for your energy, who you are in the group for everyone, and your acknowledgement of everybody. You master acknowledger, and thank you. for everything you bring and for this conversation today. It's been amazing to have this conversation with you. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And may I acknowledge you?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Angie. Angie, to me, who you are being is love with a capital L. Like your source is love. The reason that you have been coaching for years and years is an expression of your being loving. Your partner is the luckiest son of a gun in Britain to be married. Sorry, to be with you. I don't know. Are you guys married? I don't know if you're married or not, but it doesn't matter. Well, he's with you. He is energetically with you and committedly with you. And you guys are co-creators of your life. To me, who you are being is expansive. It's not just economy and getting there. It is the experience that you're creating at every step of the journey. Business class, beautiful. What airline are you flying on, by the way?
British Airways.
British Airways business class is deluxe. It is luxury. It is so sweet. Oh my goodness. To me, who you are is commitment. What does that mean? You say, I'm going to India. You say, I'm going business class. And these things are created. They fall out of your mouth and into reality. That's commitment for me. Who you are being is somebody who is willing to feel here and now the feelings that will be present for you as you're sitting in business class on British Airways, flying from the UK over to India. To me, who you are is someone who is an example of the possibility of being, the possibility of possibility is really what being is for me. And you're an example of that. You're an example of, and somebody that I can look to. You're like a beacon shining brightly. They can say, if Angie Scott can do it, I can do it. Maybe. You know, and if Ankush can do it, I can do it maybe. And if Ben Buckley can live there, I can go there and be okay. And if Gabby's going to be there, I can be there, and on and on and on. To me, who you are being is somebody who is enrollable in their own greatness. You volunteered to be part of that team. You felt, I assert that you felt called to be a part of that, the creation of the India event team. I have that same feeling. And I had the opportunity to speak with Ranjan yesterday. And I just want to say thank you so much for who you are being and the difference that you are making and the light that you are shining. And like what Steve said to you, you mentioned before we started recording, who you're being in the world. I'm noticing. Everyone's noticing, Angie. Thank you for being one.
Thank you, Dave.
Who is worthy of notice. Thank you.
And I'd love to invite anyone to just make that commitment and just watch how it all falls into place when you're being that. Because I've just experienced it and it absolutely works that way.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
My pleasure. Do you have any other words you'd like to share on if a person is thinking about it and the steps from thinking about it to committing to it?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, and it is just that commitment. It's just go buy your ticket, just go buy it. Everything else, once you are committed and you say those words like Dave and Penny did for London, it's done. The commitment's made, it's done.
Beautiful.
Would you add anything to that, Dave?
Oh, there's something that I think I heard Sarah Adnani talk about commitment, and it is like or I think it was Steve that called out a black hole, but she gave it a little bit of a finer distinction, Sarah, where it is flexibility and unwavering commitment. And there's something about without attachment. It's like it doesn't just have to be in this particular way. It could be another way. So for example, for you, it could show up that yes, we've got the money and British Airways is going there, but we just decided that for fun, we'd like to stop over in Dubai. So in this particular one, we're going to go on business class on Emirates Air or something like that. Having flexibility with that is really a beautiful way just to see what unfolds and to see what is possible. And we do have choice. Like I love that you guys are going business class as opposed to just saying, "Well, we got economy. That's good enough. We're now back to our regularly scheduled programming." No, it's okay. We've created this. Let's create this. Let's create this amazing, miraculous experience just while we're in the air. Yeah, I love that, and that's possible for every single one of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. 1,000,000%. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.